It is time for the one and only, the premier, the only official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Your Chute Bosses are ready, so let's give it a go and talk some rodeo.
Hello everyone and welcome into another exciting episode of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Tanner Barr, Tracy Rink, already on episode 25 of season 2, Tracy. The Pro Rodeo season has just flown by. You know, we were mentioning that, now we're in a spot where guys are getting down. It's like, can you get inside the top 15? You've got, 60 days left to go, 56 now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I thought Cade Berry brought up some good stuff when Leighton was telling him a lot of guys that August 1st might check it in because they don't think, have a realistic chance to make the NFR. So now all of a sudden your odds will get better, but you really got to go. Like if that's your goal, which at that point it would have to be, is you could go. A lot of those guys save rodeos. A lot of those guys are going everywhere. Bull riders can go pretty much anywhere they want. But, yeah, now's the time. I mean, because if you can get into Puyallup, and I keep saying this, Puyallup, and somehow get to Sioux Falls, you have a chance to win a lot of money. And there's other money out there, too, with other rodeos, Pendleton and places like that. But it's going to be a crazy push, and it's exciting. I mean, imagine, like, the guys, the bubble's always intriguing, but it's going to be an exciting race for sure. A lot of new faces already.
Yeah, and a lot of different rough stock events, especially. I think we talked about bull riding. There being 5 out of the top 15 right now. They would be their first Wrangler National Finals Rodeo.
That's
if they were able to make it into Las Vegas. So a lot of things to look forward to as we turn to the month of August here, and a lot of great events coming up as well. Tracy, let's start off with our Pro Rodeo props, and this is a event that we've been covering. I think they've been holding it for 2 or 3 years now. I think this might end up being the third class.
This is the third
right?
class,
yeah. 22, 3, and 4. But Las Vegas announced that the Vegas NFR icons for 2024 is going to be rodeo legends Joe Beaver, Rich Skelton, and Speed Williams. And those are 3 of the guys that really dominated in Vegas for a majority of the time in the trips that they made their way to the Thomas and Mack.
Yeah, Joe Beaver is one of the most famous cowboys going ever. I mean, and he does commentary now, and he mentors a lot of guys like John Dowsh and Kobe Dowsh. But, yeah, I mean, he's one of the best ever. And they say that the Thomas and Mack's the house that Joe built because he won his rookie year in tie-down roping. And he just kept on winning. I mean, I believe he won 8 world titles, if I'm thinking right. And Speed Williams and Rich Skelton, they kind of changed the way team roping was done, the way they were making their throws so fast. I mean, guys really didn't do what they were doing. And I remember when they both went in the Hall of Fame a few years back when we were interviewing them, and they did so much video work. Like, they were one of the first guys that really were doing a lot of video work, kind of like Tony Gwynn in baseball, really studying and figuring ways to go faster. Filming, And when they did it, everybody started copying them. And now, I mean, obviously team roping's evolved to where it is. But, yeah, there's just legends. I mean, you win that many world titles like those guys have in Vegas, it's a well-deserving honor.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worked out for Skelton and Williams. And won 8 world titles. We'll talk about them a little bit later on as we take a look at our historic NFR moment. But before we get there, that kind of brings us on a great point to shout out one of our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Las Vegas, the home of the NFR for 39 years. You can come see why Vegas is the sports and entertainment capital of the world this December when Pro Rodeo's best saddle up and ride at the NFR. So a lot of great things happen in Vegas during those days. Make sure you check out all their events. I know our fans will always go out there, Tracy. It's like, it's hard to see a year where Vegas isn't full of rodeo fans. Obviously, 2020 had to go to Arlington, but, that's what a lot of our fans live for, those 10 days in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and I mean, the town's just conducive to that. I mean, there's other towns that are too, but there's so much to do in Vegas outside of rodeo. But the Cowboy Christmas things, if you've never been, I mean,
do they have 500,000 people there?
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. And I went to the one at the Calgary Stampede, and my wife was with me, and she couldn't believe. She's like, "This is huge," and I'm like,
Vegas.
This is like a baby version of what they do in Vegas at like 3 different venues at South Point and the Convention Center, and I mean, it's just the whole vibe. I mean, they say it every time when the NFR starts before each round. It's a cowboy town, and it is a cowboy town. I mean, you never see that many cowboys in Vegas for that much time over the NFR, but literally from like the 3rd week of November to like the 2nd week of December, it is a cowboy town, and Vegas loves the NFR, and
there's why Vegas couldn't afford to lose the NFR.
Right, and there's so many, and it's going to be there until 2035 with the latest contract, and there's so many things to do. I personally love Vegas just because everything's open late at night or in the morning. Like you can always want something, because some places, like we have late hours, and which I never complain about, but like a lot of places are closed.
Yeah.
At places where we go to other rodeos, and Vegas, you can get pretty much anything you want, and that's what I love about it. It just makes for long days and fun times. But I enjoy Vegas. I'm not gonna lie, it's a fun time, and I like the fact that they, like you said, they knew they needed the NFR to stay there. Mm-hmm. They upped the money to, $200, over $250 million through 2035, and
up $1 million every year.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. This year alone, the contestants are going to make $12.5 million. Just the contestants. So it's going to be amazing. I'm excited for it, and especially with the new faces. There's so much going on. And, I mean, every year, the coolest part about our job, I think, is it's not like the same teams every year. It's the Yankees or whatever, the Reds. It's not always that. There's so much difference about guys and the opportunity, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we know it won't be the Cowboys every year in the NFL. It's a shot towards my fellow Cowboy coworkers.
I don't need that. I don't need that today.
We're starting off the seseason strong for the Dallas Cowboys. Ooh. Yeah, and as we talked about, with that pro rodeo season coming to an end, also means that awards are coming, Trace. Yeah. We know that it feels like as soon as we get to about September 20th, that we're announcing awards until the first or second weekend of November. And one of those awards that applications are now open for, the Heston by Massey Ferguson Sowing Good Deeds contest. This is a contest that honors rodeo committees across the country that do great work, whether that's inside the arena, doing scholarships or different things, or outside the arena, just helping their community to get along. And, this is one that, if you've got a deserving rodeo committee out there that you think would be a great recipient for this, make sure to apply, because it's a great opportunity. They have a chance to win a Massey Ferguson tractor and a lot of other great things.
And that tractor is like a $40,000 tractor.
At least,
it's a state-of-the-art tractor, and I believe the deadline's September 1st. Mm-hmm. So you definitely want to get your nominations in to have a chance to win it. And I mean, what it would mean to a small, some small rodeos have won that, some bigger rodeos have won that, and it really doesn't matter. They give you the banner, but they give you a tractor. I mean, a tractor is a tractor at any size rodeo, and it's just more of a thank you to what those rodeos do. We speak about all the time. There's such a community involvement with every rodeo, whether the smallest rodeo or the biggest rodeo.
Yeah, and then we'll have 5 finalists. Those finalists will be announced as we get towards the back end of September and into October, and then ultimately the winner will be announced in Las Vegas. They get that Massey Ferguson tractor, and that'll be at the gala in Vegas. And make sure that you get those in, because it's a super cool thing, and a chance to be recognized.
It'll be announced at that awards banquet December 4th, because the NFR starts the 5th this year, and obviously it's a sold-out crowd, over 1,000 people there at the South Point, and what an honor. I mean, it's just incredible to be around all your peers and the top people in the sport, and you win something like that. So good luck. I mean, and the only way you win, it's like playing the lotto. The only way you win is by playing. I mean, you got to enter to have a chance. So please enter.
Yeah, and speaking of rodeos that have done great things in the sport throughout, centuries and decades, Tracy, is the Caldwell Night Rodeo, celebrating its 100th anniversary coming up August 13th through the 17th in Caldwell, Idaho. And this has been a rodeo that, Alex Dodd, it'll be coming out in the digital Pro Rodeo Sports News. It's going to be coming out this upcoming Friday, August 9th. Mm-hmm. Did a deep dive on the history of that rodeo a little bit. And that's a rodeo that almost never got to this point, because, Tracy, it almost collapsed back in the 1960s.
Yeah, I mean, like paying artists and trying to find ways to...
Yeah, nobody showed up one time. And
no one shows up. So the only way you can pay artists or pay performers is ticket sales. I mean, you can pay them, but you need to get it reimbursed back to you through ticket sales. And they realized a better formula, maybe not to go with the bigger name acts. And you find a formula, usually my experience is, and Caldwell has obviously mastered it in 100 years, you find a formula that works, and usually you stick to that formula.
Yeah.
And they've obviously found something that works, because they're celebrating their 100th anniversary.
Well, Tracy, it wasn't even just finding smaller acts. They said that the Cowboys are their stars.
Yeah.
So now they don't worry about bringing in outside acts. They made that decision way back when to go ahead and make the move from bringing in specialty acts to saying the rodeo is the star of the show, and it's worked out. Obviously, they've done a lot of great things. So make sure you check out that story from Alex because, and it's a super important rodeo in the playoff series as well. It kind of really kicks off that northwest swing of, when we go up to Caldwell and then Kennewick, Washington, and there's just so many.
Hermiston up there,
Hermiston, Puyallup. We just start rolling.
It's all in the
Ellensburg,
northwest. Pendleton. I mean, it's all up there, and that's where a good chunk of the money's won late in the season. Obviously, things changed a little bit last year with the addition of Sioux Falls and the Cinch playoffs and Puyallup being included in that. But that's kind of where the money is towards the end of the year.
Can't wait to see how it shakes out. Going to be a fun one. And another guy that's chasing yet another NFR appearance is bull rider Jordan Spears, Tracy. He's 26th in the world standings right now, and we had a chance to sit down with him. I think Alex Riley did for a question segment up in Cheyenne just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and Spears is one of those guys, when he's healthy, he's really good. I mean, and I know that's, stating the obvious, but he's done some great things. I remember he still holds the Expos record. I believe he won $39,000 in Expos finale in like 2007.
In Ellensburg, right?
Yeah, in like 17 or 18. And he's been a great bull rider. He's just had some injury problems. I mean, which is part of
for the course
with that event. But great guy. He's originally from California. I think he's living in Idaho now, if I'm thinking right. And I remember, I think during COVID he was doing some truck driving. He's doing some weird stuff. They're not weird, just finding ways to make money. But great guy, and you'd like to see guys like that can able to continue their careers. I mean, bull riding, you start getting around 30 years old, you start getting a little ancient. So it's glad to see him able to still push, and maybe he can get it done. And with bull riding, there's so many Expos events, and there's so much ground money. You can swing in the standings at $20,000 at any given rodeo or any given Expos.
As a 30-year-old, that hurts my soul a little bit, Tracy. Let's go to Jordan Spears with your 8-question segment.
What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie would be Shooter.
Okay. What's your favorite restaurant?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Favorite restaurant, probably Costa Vida.
Okay. What's a favorite bull you've ridden in PRCA competition?
Ooh, there's a few of them. Probably one of my favorite is, he's not around anymore, but Rewind of Mike Corey's. I won quite a bit of money on him, got on him 6 times, rode him 4 of the 6 times, won over 40 or 50,000 on him, so.
Nice. If you had the chance to name a bull, what would you name it?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I always said if I had to name bulls, I'd probably name them after equipment. So excavator, dozer, something along that line.
What's your favorite hobby outside of rodeo?
I'd say general would be the outdoors, hunting, fishing, anything outdoors.
Nice. Describe bull riding in one word.
Somewhat controlled chaos.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, mint chocolate chip.
All right, last question. If you had to take one of these guys in a tag team partner match, who would you rather have, Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee?
I gotta go with Chuck Norris.
And Jordan Spears, Tracy, you mentioned that this is a guy that when he's doing it healthy, he's one of the best in the game. He's been a top 15 bull rider for quite a while, probably the last 5 to 10 years. And he has an uphill battle this year, setting 26th, but he's got a shot. But you got to start putting together some of those big paydays. Yeah,
I mean, that's the key. I mean, and with ground money counting towards the world standings, I mean, you can even go to those smaller rodeos and you're the only guy that rides. You may get $5,000 to $8,000. So, and there's really no limit to the bull riders. There is at 125, but I mean, you'd have to really be pushing it to get to that limit. So, I mean, hopefully he can keep going down the road, pushing it, and stay healthy. And at that point, anything can happen.
Yep, especially in bull riding. So we appreciate Jordan taking a little time to talk with us in our 8-question segment. We are going to take a quick break here on the show, but we have so much more coming your way on the Chute Bosses Historic NFR Moment of the Week. We'll catch up with the Buck and also do your ProRodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight. All that coming up right after the break.
In 1936, a group of cowboys and cowgirls came together for the common good of rodeo. They accomplished a feat that sparked a fire of greatness in countless Western athletes. Today, the Western lifestyle burns on in our contestants' and fans' hearts and souls. We aim to preserve the cowboy code and keep the Western lifestyle alive. Together as one, we are Pro Rodeo.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast, the official podcast of ProRodeo, and we didn't mention it off the top of the show, but we're going to sit down in our final segment here with country music star Jenna Paulette, and she had a chance to step into the headquarters here, Tracy, last week. I know you switched your shirt and couldn't follow direction this morning, but we're going to sit down.
It's not my forte.
Yeah, we're going to sit down and talk with Jenna Paulette. She's doing some great things with the JCCF organization.
Yeah, I mean, the coolest part about her is just how down-to-earth she was. I mean, she's obviously a rising star. She has over 100,000 followers, like, on Instagram, but she's open for some big acts. I know doing stuff with Aaron Watson and different things, but she seems like she's on the brink of possible stardom.
Yeah,
and
got a kiddo on the way as well.
I think she was almost 8 months pregnant, she was saying, so a lot on her plate, but she was traveling around doing a lot of shows, and it's just great to see. I mean, and you and I have met professional athletes, and some of them are really down to earth, and you wouldn't even know they're superstars, and some of them are you got to have an appointment.
Yeah,
they're better than you, and whatever. To each their own. But she was just down to earth, and it was great to talk to her.
Yeah, and she really represents the Western way life, the way it should be out on the road. So we'll sit down and talk with Jenna a little bit about what's going on in her life, as well as her giveaway they have coming up for Las Vegas to spend some time with them. But let's start it off with our ProRodeo Hall of Fame spotlight to one of the best, what some people consider, one of the best cowboys of all time, 1999 inductee Tom Ferguson. He's one of those guys, Tracy, that his records, his accomplishments kind of set the way for cowboys to come after him, to follow. This is a guy, the Oklahoma native, first cowboy to ever win $100,000.
Yeah.
First cowboy to earn $1 million in his career, and then he captured also 6 all-around straight consecutive titles. This was the guy that was he was the best of the best during his time. Probably still is.
Right. I mean, he was kind of like Trevor Brazile of his time, and kind of like Ty Murray and Larry Mahan. Yeah. He was right before Mahan and started winning, or right in that mix. But yeah, I mean, he's outstanding. I mean, he's one of the best ever. I mean, you look at anything. I read all those old media guides all the time. You look at his bio, and he was one of the top 2 guys going whenever he was going. And it's a testament to him to be so good in the all-around. I mean, a lot of guys, even back then, more guys did more events, but he was really good at a lot of events. And to win in the all-around, I mean, I applaud anybody that can do that, and he was one of the best ever.
Yeah, no doubt about that. How about this stat? Finished top 15 in the world in 2 events for 8 consecutive years. He was top 15 in the world in both events. I mean, the only guy we can think of that had a shot like that, Trevor Brazile, and obviously it's not going to happen this year, but a guy like Stetson Wright.
Yeah, and Ty Murray, but not
for 8 years.
The problem
right?
with Ty is he just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's unheard of.
There's just a consistency, especially, I mean, it's hard enough to make the NFR every year.
Yeah.
And then to do it in 2 events and to be one of the best guys going in 2 events is incredible, especially with horsepower and everything else. There's so many variables. So, yeah, I mean, and like I said, Stetson's obviously, he probably would have kept that streak going.
Yeah.
But he's injured, but that's part of it, though.
It is.
That's what I tell people.
Longevity.
Like Emmitt Smith's the leading rusher in the NFL, and you can say what you want about him, but he was never hurt. Like, he was always there. If you always answer the bell, I mean, there's something to be said about that. It's not your fault if you're always healthy and always great for a long time. I mean, so kudos to him. And like I said, he's one of the best ever.
That's one of my favorite quotes of all time is, what's the best ability?
Yeah,
availability.
And that's the truth. I mean, because if you're not available, you can't help your own cause to make the NFR, and you can't help your team if you're on a team sport. Like, you could be the greatest athlete ever. If Michael Jordan's hurt, he's not doing the Bulls any good. And sometimes injuries are unavoidable, but that's just part of sports. And if you can stay healthy, I mean, you only help your career stats and your teams.
That's a shot at you, Joel Embiid. Hopefully you hear that out there. Let's move on, Tracy, to our historic NFR moment of the week. And we talked about these 2 gentlemen off the top of the show. Andrew's going to get it pulled up here for us. But 2 of the best, probably, would you say that they're the best team ropers of all time? Can you say that? I mean,
I'd probably say, just from my experience of talking to Cowboy, Clay O'Brien, Cooper, and Jake Barnes.
They have the most world titles, though, Skelton and Williams.
Right, so there's probably the argument to people. I'm not saying, world title-wise, there's no one better. And these guys, the biggest thing, like I said, they revolutionized the sport. Yeah. And to do it so many years in a row. Yeah. So, I mean, they're probably you'd have to be top 2. If they're not 1, they're 2. So, yeah, and they went in the Hall of Fame, I believe it was 3 years ago. It wasn't
just a couple years ago.
And part of the reason is, well, why'd you wait? Well, the ProRodeo Hall of Fame is kind of different. Like Roy Cooper went in like in '79, and he was like 3 years into his career. But sometimes they wait because these guys team rope forever, so they were kind of waiting, and they still team rope. These guys still do. I know Rich does as well. So it's just incredible to do that on that stage. that many years in a row. I mean, it's amazing to me.
Yeah, so for our historic NFR moment of the week, we're going to go back to the 2004 National Finals Rodeo and team roping. Speed Williams, Rich Skelton clocked a 3.8-second run, Tracy, in round number 9, locked up their 8th straight PRCA World Championship. Let's run that, Andrew.
14 go buckles on the next team.
Is that Bobby T?
That is Bobby T. Rich Skelton looks young there.
And this was 04. This was the back end of their world title run.
Yeah.
They are 14,000 behind, but they're 5th in the average. Watch them.
Man, what a run.
And a lot of that, Tracy, starts with guys, you mentioned like watching a lot of film and different things like that, but it comes down to throwing before they're out of the box.
Yeah,
Look at him.
and that's what guys
And
do
you
now.
see it so much now. Dustin Agaskiza is one of the best.
Yeah, and those guys, and Junior and Driggers.
Caleb, yeah.
I mean, and it's just crazy. They just, to do that, I mean, because literally everything's on the line right there. Because if you
Well,
miss.
he just mentioned that they were trailing,
Right, by
at that point. Yeah.
14,000. If you miss, you're not a world champion. I mean, and different guys step up in different ways, but I mean, look how soon Speed Williams caught. Like, it's crazy. And I mean, Rich is probably, his nerves are probably like, oh my gosh.
Can't miss
But
this.
look how
Yeah.
fast. Like,
And that's normal nowadays,
yeah,
Trace.
that's just another run in Vegas nowadays. But back then, that wasn't happening. Not on a regular basis.
Yeah, and that's part of one of those things, where you have to be aggressive. We have a lot of people that are aggressive, but if you can be aggressive and also be consistent, that's
Yeah.
what separates the best
Right.
from the best.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like Shad Mayfield. Like, he's aggressive, and Marty Yates, they swing for the fences a lot. And if you can do that and maintain consistency, then you're the best in the world, because guys aren't as fast as you usually. But, I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong, and that's just honestly probably to me, and I mean, I know the conversations I had with Speed when they got inducted. He's an ultimate believer in himself by the film he watched and things he did. And you can tell that by he walked in there and they knew they were behind. They know what they have to do, and there's never any doubt that, like, this is what we're going to do, and they pulled it off. I mean, you could see the reaction in the crowd, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, my gosh. And I just can't imagine what – I mean, you and I have been in that, the Thomas and Mack like that, just the adrenaline rush, like, oh, my gosh. And team roping, obviously the biggest thing with team roping, it's a team sport. Like, you could be the greatest header and have the greatest time ever, but your healer's got to come through for you, or vice versa, So it's just cool. It's really cool. And I'm glad that we pulled up that moment, especially when they're the icons. And
Yeah.
those icons, it was, started 3 years ago. It was initially Trevor and I'm trying to think who it was, Charmaine James and people like that. So if you're
Ty
like
Murray, wasn't it?
and Ty Murray, so if you go to the third on that level of third year doing it, that tells you how legendary you were in Las Vegas.
Yeah, no doubt.
A cool little tidbit, too, is that same year in round 7, Clay Tran and Michael Jones actually broke the NFR record with 3.7. So that was like the time everybody was kind of chasing after that round 7 win.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we talk about Clay trying. I'm actually in this magazine coming up here, actually doing a cowboy grill on his son, Tyler Tryon. He's dominating the world of rodeo right now. 18 years old. He's been rodeoing for 5 months right now, Tracy.
Yeah.
And he's already 30th in the world. So
Yeah, I mean,
cool
and
things happening
I'm sure the
team
apple
roping.
doesn't fall from the
Oh,
tree.
yeah.
I mean, just because your dad's a world champion doesn't make sure you are. But obviously, he's proved that he's going to be very good for a long time coming.
Well, just think he's went to the NFR more years than his son's been alive.
Yeah, 20 times to the NFR is impressive. I
And
mean,
his kid's
there's
18. Yeah.
there's guys, team ropers that have gone to a lot, but 20 times of anything is incredible. And to go to the NFR, kudos to him.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's go on to our viewer question, Tracy. And we talked about, this feels like it's an NFR episode of the Chute Bosses. A lot of things talking about it. This one comes from Gabby on Instagram. Has there ever been a father, son, and daughter trio compete at the NFR in the first year? And you obviously know this question, Tracy, a family that lives not too far from where you do.
Yeah, they live down in Pueblo, and it's Dick Yates, J.D. Yates, his son, and then Kelly Yates, the barrel racer. They all qualified in '84, and it's never been matched. I mean, that record still stands, and I mean, it's a record that, I mean, honestly, there's got to be
That's gonna be
a
tough.
lot of things would have to come into play. I mean, with relative, like, it would just be hard. I can't think on the top of my head who would even be in that mix.
The only thing I could think of is, does Clay Tryon have a daughter?
Yeah.
That's coming up in barrel racing,
Yeah,
and maybe he could make a run at it again. It'd have to be somebody later in their career.
Right.
And it's probably going to be a timed event.
Yeah, it definitely have to be I would imagine a time
Yeah, I
different
don't know.
person because like Dick Yates.
Unless
was,
Cody Wright gets back in.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But yeah, that'd be amazing though to have your dad, brother, and your sister. I mean,
your sister or your daughter.
And J.D. Yates was so young when he even broke into doing. He was 15 years old at his first NFR. He was recently inducted into the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. So, yeah, what an incredible honor.
Kelly still makes runs herself.
Yeah,
sometimes.
and she was a great barrel racer. I mean, she was great in her own right, and Dick was great at what he did. I mean, the whole family's. I mean,
Trey
between
now,
and Trey won the average the one year with, I believe it was with Synergy.
Oh.
I think he won the average with Synergy the one year. They took like third in the world, and he's still doing it. So, I mean, the family, they do a lot of stuff with horses, obviously, but incredible rodeo family.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you got something for CB Nation?
CB Nation, yes, it is true. I tried to symbolically adopt an elephant when I was in high school. I just couldn't put the funds together. I read a lot of books on Dumbo and thought I'm going to symbolically adopt an elephant. Just didn't come together because I couldn't come up with the cash.
Not enough money in your trunk?
Yeah.
Get it?
Yeah.
Andrew, you got something for Tracy?
I had a question for y'all. This is like just kind of a random question, but something I was thinking about during my research. Do y'all think saddle bronc and bareback riding has been the two events that have come the farthest in the last 40 years? Because I was looking back in the 80s, like people were winning the NFR with 70s and low 80s, and now I feel like the bareback and saddle bronc are two of the competitive events in pro rodeo that we have right now. Do y'all think that those two events have come the farthest in the last 40 years, 20 years?
I think it's subjective a little bit, Andrew, just based on the fact that even look at tie-down roping. An average round, we've got everybody going below 7.3 that places in the top 6. I think in some events, like timed event, we had a bunch of fast guys back in the day, so maybe, rough stock has advanced, but I think just the sport in general has advanced, in my opinion.
I think the biggest difference, and this is just my opinion, in bareback and saddle bronc, is I think there's just so many guys that train all year round and are athletic, that are far more athletic. And I'm not taking anything from the guys in the past, but those guys weren't at the gym 24/7 like now. I mean, there's so much more involved with fitness and staying in shape and the routine. And I think that is up the level of competition for both events. I mean, because those events are loaded. I mean, there's probably 40 guys in each event that are legitimate NFR guys. And back in the day, those guys were incredible. And it's different eras. It's like comparing Michael Jordan to LeBron James. I mean, there's so many different things involved. But me personally, if I had to say one thing, I would just say those guys just take it a lot, maybe not more serious, but are just in better shape. That would be my guess.
And I think, Tracy, not only comes down to the Cowboys, it comes down to the stock.
Yeah.
We're in a much different type of breeding genetics program nowadays than they were. We're looking at probably, 60, 70-point horses back in those days before things really got evolved to where we are now and the stock that we have now. So I think that's a big part of it as well, is just, the stock's just that much better, and stock contractors, are mixing genetics and they're doing cloning and all these different things that the Born to Buck program in Calgary, we're watching the best animals in the world, and I don't know if the animals can get much better than they are now. It's hard to see animals take that next step, but I'm sure they really have from the 70s to 2020.
Yeah, I would just think because the money invested in the animals now, I mean, there's just a lot of stock contractors that have money to invest in it. I mean, Frontier Rodeo, Jerry Nelson, I mean, and Heath Stewart, they run that
Pete Carr bought a lot of great bucking horses.
Carr, and I mean, go down Phenom Genetics and different
Calgary
things.
Stampede.
Calgary Stampede, and I mean, you invest in it, but it's like it's the adage, you only get out of it what you're going to put into it. And a lot of those guys, they see horses that they become like super scouts of horses, and they find horses that they think are going to be great, and usually they are, and then all of a sudden they're breeding
and they know they're great by age 2 or 3.
Right, and then they're breeding them later, and then all of a sudden you've got this big stable. I mean, you bring back to like Bodacious, and maybe Sammy Andrews didn't know what he was getting into back then because he bought the bull for like $500.
Well, he thought it was just like a scrap.
Just a scrap heap bull. But look how much it can change the whole life of a stock contractor and everything you do the rest of your life just on one animal. And there's like Killer Bee. There's certain animals that
Mr. T, Hal Burns, small rodeo company from Wyoming. Now I'm a famous bull from Wyoming.
Yeah, there's a famous bull from Laramie that put us on the map. But that's how much just one animal can change. And then all of a sudden You know, they have babies and they breed, and then all of a sudden there's all these relations, and it's just crazy. But I think the investment those stock contractors put into it. I mean, people always say, "Oh, those animals, they're out and they're hot, and they're this." Those animals, the good animals, they're treated like kings. I mean, the bulls, they're in air-conditioned barns, like, and why not? I told those are ATM machines. I mean, they're only as good as like availability. When they're winning rodeos on guys and going to the NFR, like that's how those stock contractors make money, or status and respect and everything. And so those animals, especially the great ones, I mean, who knows? I mean, one of the greatest ever was Descent back in the 60s and 70s. Saddle Bronc won 6 PRCA Horses of the Year, but those graded coconut in the Calgary Stampede. It's just amazing to me when you start doing deep dives on stuff, how incredible it is to see horses and stock contractors. And the thing is, and Andrew would know this, it's such a grind to be a stock contractor. I mean, it's not easy. And so I applaud those guys because they live like rock stars, going to rodeos everywhere and making money. And it's a hard life. I mean, they choose the life, but I think now the investment into that is so much different than what it used to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of heart, sweat, and tears, put into that. And another guy that, is trying to invest in himself, but, he's been battling Tracy, I think he was the Chupacabra a couple weeks ago or something crazy like that. But
Rey Mysterio's stepbrother?
That's Buck.
Yeah. Oh, Chute Boss Hero. I forgot.
Yeah.
He was the Chute Boss Hero. I like the mask.
I don't know if I like the mask. He looks better with it on than off, I think. Let's go to Buck. He's got your Pro Rodeo word of the day.
My name's Buck, the official correspondent of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of the PRCA. My word for the day is heart. Like cowboys have to show plenty of heart to win that coveted gold buckle. When it comes to heart and Buck, it relates to my favorite singer of all time, Billy Ray Cyrus, and Achy Breaky Heart. Don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, it wouldn't understand. No one understands Buck. What's wrong with this guitar? It's out of tune.
Cowboying is in our blood. Cowboying is in our bruises. It's in our rain-soaked jackets. In our calloused hands, tested by barbed wire and rope. Our mud-stained boots to the crown of our resist-all hat. You live out west for even the shortest time, and there's one thing you learn. You can't pretend out here. Resist all. We live it every day.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast, the official podcast of Pro Rodeo. It's Tanner Barth and Tracy Rink, and we've got a special guest, none other than country music star Jenna Paulette, joining us here today on the show. Jenna, appreciate it. We know you've got a lot going on. You're hitting the road. You're also 7 months pregnant as well, so we appreciate you stopping into the headquarters.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be here and glad we could do it in person.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we brought you in here is an opportunity to talk about a great thing you're doing for not only sport of rodeo, but, just Western fans in general. Can you tell the fans a little bit about your connection with the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund?
Yes. So I've been partnered with Justin for a while and love what they stand for and what they do for rodeo athletes through the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund. And thought it would be a really cool opportunity to do a giveaway with them and All True, which is a company that gives experiences that can also give you the opportunity to give to really worthy causes like the JCC. So we are doing a giveaway for tickets to the NFR, a trip to the NFR.
Wow.
Hang with me if you want to, and then designing a custom pair of boots. And all of the money that we raise will go towards the Justin Cowboy Crisis Fund.
And maybe a new little baby to hang out with.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about it. And she's going to be there because I got a lot of things to do at the NFR this year.
Yeah.
So you're expecting a little girl?
Yes, a little girl. She's due October 7th, and my big comeback will be the NFR.
Awesome.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Lots of good stuff happening.
Yeah.
So you sang the national anthem last year at the NFR,
Yes.
right? In round 7, if I remember right?
Yes, sir.
Was that the first time you'd been there?
Not
singing the national anthem.
Singing the national anthem, yes. And it had been a dream of mine for a really long time. And my husband was saying, because he was down there with me and, watching the whole thing, and he was like, as soon as I saw you take a breath before you started singing, I knew you'd be okay. But, we both are big rodeo fans, and and it was a dream come true for one of us to be in that arena, and it was just a win for both of us.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you. You know, you mentioned being a rodeo fan. Obviously, the Western way of life is super important to you.
Yep.
How did that kind of come about in your life? Were you raised on a ranch, on a farm? Kind of tell our listeners about that.
So I was raised in a ranching family, cow-calf operation on the Oklahoma-Texas line in Thackerville, Oklahoma. And that's, I mean, people are like, okay, is she from Texas? Is she from Oklahoma? But our ranch is literally on the Red River. Wow. So that's the border of Texas and Oklahoma. And my granddad lived on the Texas side because my grandma would always be like, I'm not dying in Okie, so you got to get me a house in Texas. So they lived in Gainesville, and then Thackerville is where the ranch was, and he just commuted every day. And we had a sweet little old lady named Bonnie that lived in the ranch house there. So, awesome. So I fell in love with the Western way of life and cattle and the ethics that come along with it through my granddad. Listened to a lot of Don Williams, Eddie Arnold, and George Strait in his truck cab, and fell in love with country music that way. And I think it was always, you know, watching people like George, who, you know, really team wrote, really live it, and then also sing about it. It just, the connection there is what made me want to sing country music. It was never just country music for me. It was always about the lifestyle.
So are you a Texas or a Sooner or a Longhorn?
I'm a Longhorn.
Okay, there you go.
My other granddad went to Texas. My husband's grandfather went to Texas. My brother went to Texas. And,
nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
Welcome.
So a lot of people, I mean, you enjoy the Western lifestyle. People listen to George Strait and famous musicians. When did you think that, man, I might be able to sing? I mean, a lot of people might think that their parents might think they can sing, but then
but they really can't.
Then they can't sing. When did you realize that it might be a dream you could follow?
It actually was my dad and mom that had the biggest impact on that. We were leaving the ranch. We were in a gold Suburban. It was a hot summer day. Wide Open Spaces was playing on the radio.
It's a great one.
Yep. And my dad turned the radio dial down, and I was on pitch and on time when he turned it back up. And he looked at my mom and kind of looked at me in the rearview mirror and was like, I think she could do this. And
How old were you?
I was 8 or around that age, yeah. And I just remember hearing him say that and just connecting the dots like, okay, that is what I'm going to do. And so from then on, you know, watching Faith Hill and, you know, all the Shanias and, you know, Reba and everybody growing up on those big shows, I would just imagine myself in their shoes. And then everything that I did from that point on kind of pointed to country music.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. Obviously, we mentioned that a baby's coming here shortly, but you still are out there performing on the road, you know, giving the fans the best experience of Jenna Paulette that they can get. Take us through what you've got going on and the music side of things.
Yeah, so I just signed my first record deal end of last year, beginning of this year. It's wild. I mean, like, I really didn't even think I could get pregnant, and then I'm signing a record deal and pregnant and releasing my first record on that label all at the same time. It's just crazy. So on the music side of things, it'll be my sophomore album, and it's called Horseback, and it comes out September 6th, and that will be the last show I play at the Grand Ole Opry before I have this baby, and the baby's due October 7th. So hopefully I don't have her before then.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and the record itself is just a accumulation of perspectives that I think I've gathered throughout my life, being either from my granddad or just, you know, random wonderful people that I've been around in the Western industry and in the ranching industry and within the ag world. And I'm really excited for people to hear it. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, like, I don't know how I have time to sleep right now. I really don't. I mean, like, last weekend, my flight, so I played 3 shows. My flight for the one on Thursday got canceled. So I was like, you know what, I'll just drive to Houston from where we live, which is like 9 hours. And played that show that night, got there like 30 minutes before sound check.
No traffic, right?
Yeah, Houston. And it wasn't actually that bad, which I'm very grateful for because it was a Thursday. But yeah, played that show, went to sleep that night, got up the next day, drove to San Antonio area, played that show. And then I honestly didn't realize that I was on the ticket for the show in Wichita Falls. So I thought I could just drive back home 5 hours and I'd be done. No, I was on the docket for the next night in Wichita Falls and got texts from a bunch of buddies of mine because that's like an hour from.
So they were all pumped up to
Yeah,
watch
they're
you
like,
perform.
we'll see you tomorrow. We can't wait. I'm like, great. I will be there.
I
Can't
will,
wait.
yeah.
So, but it was great. I mean, I think I had like, I don't know, 300 to 500 people there just to see me singing
Wow,
along. And
that's awesome.
I am so grateful for it. So, yeah. So anyways, yeah, it's been busy. And definitely a challenge. I mean, I've never been pregnant before, so I committed to a lot before I knew what it would feel like. But I'm glad that I did, because the world doesn't stop just because you're having a baby. And so many people, especially with country music, they're like, oh, well, she's pregnant, she's probably going to give up. And no, that's not the case with me. I feel called to this, and I just want to bring her along, and my husband's the most supportive man in the world, so he's honestly like, can't wait till she's just going to the ranch with him, you know, on a daily basis. And so it was never in my mind to quit, and it's never been a part of who I am. So it just kept on going, and I'm just doing it all.
Who's some of the people, like, obviously you've toured with like Aaron Watson and different people who've had influences on you. Like, I've watched documentaries and like Behind the Music says, and you see certain bands really help other bands or musicians, and some don't. Like, some don't. You know, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Who are some of the people who have helped you along the way so far?
Gosh, I've gotten incredible advice from Aaron Watson, that is, and he's one of those guys that just, like, who he is on social media is who he is in person. And I really think a lot of what's happened in the last year and a half of my career has been because he's given me a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of consistency that's happened. I mean, I played, how we got to know each other was through his manager, and then Aaron was like, well, come sing a couple songs at the vocal ceremony at the NFR. I was like, okay, you know.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah. It was just incredible. So that's how that all got started, and then he asked me to sing on a song, and we toured together last year and some this year, and it's just been incredible. And then, you know, Cody and his wife have been so kind to me. Cody Johnson and his wife, Brandy, they've been really kind. She's, you know, encouraged me a lot. She's like, Jenna, and we saw him at the ACMs when we were, like, announcing being pregnant.
Yeah.
And Brandy was like, okay, you just need to get somebody to put a panel in the front of your Wranglers, and, you know, you can keep wearing your jeans. And that's what I did. My mom's best friend made me those jeans.
That's awesome.
And I'm wearing them right now. And then also she was like, just don't think about it. Like, just do what you got to do, and it'll be normal for your family. It'll be normal for your girls and or your kids. And both of their girls are on the road with Cody all the time, and they've sung on the Grand Ole Opry stage with them. And she was just like, you just don't need to not make it a thing. It's just, it is your life, and that's how it's going to go. And I was so encouraged by that, because really, I mean, I was nervous to announce it. I was nervous to, you know, just tell anybody, because I didn't want it to affect the way that they saw me as, you know,
performer and artist.
All of the things. And I was really encouraged by that conversation. And Cody was really, he was like, girls are the best, man. Little cowgirls are the best to Ross.
Yeah, so. Cody's an awesome guy. One thing I want to ask you, you know, you've been doing this for a little while, but I think it was your first big hit, You Ain't No Cowboy. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I mean, that one went really viral, and I think it was because of the music video that we did for it, and that was actually my husband's idea. We wanted to highlight mental health within the ag industry, and I mean, we all do a very lonely job, you know, when you're out there on a daily basis. It's not always big crews gathering big country. A lot of it's checking waters by yourself and praying for rain, and, you know, hoping that, you know, things go your way that year with the market. And it's a hard life, and it's a beautiful life, and it's a romantic life, but it has its really hard days. And a lot of it's so far out of your control that, you know, you just really hope for the best, and then deal with it on a day-to-day basis. And so we wanted to highlight that, and also how addiction can play a role in that. My husband's been sober for 6 years.
Wow.
And he's the best man I know. And I think people that have to struggle with that, they make great friends and great confidants, and he's the best of them. And he just wanted to tie that side of the story in with, you know, the bigger picture in the ag industry, and just talk about mental health. And, you know, people like Justin McKee from the Cowboy Channel and a bunch of other people highlighted it because of what it talked about, and it's something very taboo, because I think the cowboy is America's hero.
Yeah.
And it's hard to talk about mental health in the ag industry, because we all want to be so strong and you know, continue it on for the
Cowboys
next
don't have
generation.
weaknesses. You know, that's kind of the thing that some people see. So.
Yeah. So anyway, I think a lot of just having those conversations is what allowed that song to spread, and I'm so grateful for it. And you know, I say, you know, every night on stage that to be a cowboy, it takes a lot more than being able to get the job done. It's the character that comes with it, and it's a lot to live up to. So so we just
hopefully more great hits to come.
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Yeah, we're coming soon. Yeah.
So obviously, you've been to the NFR. You know, you've seen these rodeos up and close. Is there a rodeo outside of the NFR that you really enjoyed or you played at that, like, wow, it was just incredible?
Let me see. Yes. Honestly, I'm going to talk about one that's just teeny tiny, but it's just one that I love. And I never played it, actually, because I don't even think they have entertainment. But the St. Joe Rodeo, which is where my mom was born in St. Joe, Texas, in Gainesville. It's like our hometown rodeo, and my granddad was a volunteer fireman there. And to see him get honored at that rodeo and then see friends of ours compete, I don't know. It's just a special rodeo to me. It's a little bitty, but that one. And then, let me think. Other rodeos that I just have absolutely loved. I mean, Fort Worth is incredible. Houston Rodeo is a big goal of mine to play at. But, I don't know. I love rodeo in general. And I've gotten to sing at the PBR World Finals, and that was really special, too. I was very nervous because I didn't know it was like, I knew it was televised, but I didn't know if the anthem was televised until like 10 minutes before. And they were like, yes, okay, you'll be on camera. I'm like, do I know the words to the anthem anymore?
We've seen people fail at the anthem.
Oh, my gosh. It's the one thing you cannot recover from, you know?
We've had some rough ones recently, but it's not easy, though.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's the hardest thing, and everybody knows the song, and it's a responsibility. But the best thing that anybody ever told me was two things: my granddad and my husband. My grandfather would always say, remember, it's not about you.
Yeah.
So don't make it fancy.
Yeah.
Just sing the song, sing the words like you mean them. And then my husband, before I sang at the PBR World Finals for the first time, he was like, they asked you to be here. You were made for this.
Yeah.
So I just tell myself that before I step onto the dirt. They asked you to be here. You were made for this. And then I've, gotten my little tricks together for how I remember the lyrics in the right order and everything, because they're kind of trippy. They all kind of sound exactly the same because they rhyme so perfectly. But.
Well, Parker McCollum, I think he said after the MLB All-Star game that he doesn't even sing the national anthem. He won't sing it.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah,
like,
doesn't want to go down that road.
Yes, and I mean, it's just one of those things, like, if you do it wrong or you do it in injustice, people are not going to forgive you for that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Jenna, we can't thank you enough. We know you're busy up and down the road. You're pregnant. We wish you the best of luck in not only your music career, but with the little one. And we can't wait to see what you have in store.
Is there anywhere anybody can go for the JCCF stuff, like a website or anything that they can sign up?
Yes, we'll put it in the notes as well, but I think it's alltrue.com/Paulette.
Okay.
Yep. And then I've got it on my Instagram as well. So
awesome.
If anybody wants to just go to @Jenna Paulette and click my little link, it'll be in the drop down.
Awesome. Well, make sure you guys all go sign up for that, and you can join Jenna in Las Vegas. Should be a great time. Get yourself a custom pair of Justin boots as well, and a bunch of great things coming our way. But we appreciate it, and can't thank you enough.
Tanner and Tracy.
There it is. That's going to do it for another episode of the Chute Bosses. Until next time, keep on rodeoing.
He's addicted to danger, ruled by passion and pride. To pain and fear he's no stranger, but his lust needs to be satisfied. Hooked on an 8-second ride.